Welcome to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
The Butt of the Joke by Writing Ambition. My boyfriend was a funny guy. He liked to pull pranks on me, which could be annoying at times. Nothing too mean, nothing I wouldn't forgive him for or laugh about 5 minutes later. Just silly things, such as changing my ringtone to something embarrassing or posting something ludicrous to my Facebook if I left my phone unattended. I would pout and pretend to be mad for a little while, but I could never keep a straight face. Tarek, you are incorrigible, I'd say, exasperated. He'd laugh and say, "Hey, I gotta keep you on your toes, gorgeous." Honestly, it never bothered me. I was such an easy target. I'm a little too trusting by nature, tend to believe the best of everybody, will answer to surprising and unrealistic facts with a wide-eyed, "Really?" instead of the skepticism they deserve. Besides, I do have a good sense of humor. I suppose that's why we got along so well. When I decided it was time Tarek had a taste of his own medicine, I wasn't out for revenge. Mostly, I was trying to impress him. For 3 years, I'd been at the mercy of his jokes, always giving him a shake of the head, while being otherwise harmless. Tarek always said I took myself too seriously. Needed people to like me so very much all the time. I was the proverbial good girl. "That's why I like you, gorgeous," he had told me on a few occasions. "You have a kind heart." I'm usually proud of that, but this time, I wanted to show him that I, too, could be a little mean. I wanted him to see that I could go toe-to-toe with him, a worthy adversary. However, I had 2 major obstacles. One, Tarek was a clever and somewhat devious man. He'd see me coming a mile away. And 2, I can't lie with a straight face. If I tried to trick him with a silly fact or a mean lie, he would be able to tell immediately. That is, if I didn't giggle my way through it. If I wanted Tarek to fall for it, I would have to think outside of the box. "One of these days, mister, I'm going to get you good," I told him once, hands on my hips, and an expression on my face that was meant to be menacing. I could already feel the giggles bubbling in my throat. Tarek had laughed and said, "Of course you will, gorgeous. I believe you." He didn't, though, and that was the one thing that I had going for me. Tarek thought me so sweet and harmless he wouldn't be expecting retaliation on my part. I only had 1 shot at this, and I had better make it count. My girlfriend suggested a variety of lies I could try. Tell him you're pregnant. No, tell him you just found Jesus, and now he has to convert to Catholicism. Tell him you've accidentally let it slip to his mother he's been eating pork and drinking alcohol. All of which would definitely freak him out, but I doubted I could carry them through for more than 30 seconds before he caught on. I gave myself a headache trying to come up with the perfect prank, something that would bring him to the verge of panic, and then bring him back with a laughter and a look of admiration in his eyes, saying, "Damn, gorgeous, you might be a little evil after all." I hadn't found a single idea I could execute with perfection, though, and I was starting to think that maybe I should just accept my incompetence as a prankster when I found it. Or rather, I found her. I work at a local library, which is not half bad. We're constantly understaffed, but the hours are great, and I get to spend time surrounded by books. That day, I was cleaning a few cupboards in the office. throwing away the junk that we didn't need anymore. You know, old posters for events that had already passed, damaged Halloween decorations, and so on. She was in the back of the cabinet, and I had no idea how she'd ended up in there because I'd never seen that poster before. I remember thinking to myself that I would definitely remember this particular poster if we'd ever used it before, because it was a good 5'5" long and so incredibly creepy. Now, I might be a gentle and naive soul, but I'm not a coward. I quite enjoy horror stories and scary pictures, and usually have a good tolerance for it. Still, that poster made my heart skip a beat. Carolina, who had been helping me clean, looked over my shoulder and said, "Crap, that's scary." I was a little relieved to see her shudder as well. "What was this for?" I asked. There were no words on the poster. It was only the image of a woman dressed in white, dirty rags, her head tilted slightly forward as she smiled at you, her grin full of teeth and cruelty. One of her hands were touching the page, and I could see her palm pressed to it as if she were touching a glass window, asking you to let her in. Behind her, there was a mist covering tall, dry trees that seemed to be reaching out to grab her and drag her back into the fog. That shouldn't have bothered me so much. It was only your typical cheesy horror picture. A creepy woman in rags giving you scary eyes. It did bother me, though. Suddenly I felt like a child again, looking at something that made me want to cover my eyes and grab my mother's hand. Least I might have nightmares for a week. "The hell do we use that for?" I asked. Carolina had been working at the library longer than I had. Carolina shrugged. "I guess it's just for Halloween. I've never seen it before." "Yeah, but who'd want that thing staring at you? Kids would start crying, and then we'd have a couple of angry mothers complaining at the front desk." That was true. No one should be forced to look at a picture of that woman, smiling at you, as if she wanted to take your soul. The idea came to me in a flash. It was so simple that it could never work, but somehow I knew that it would. I love horror stories. Derek, however, didn't. His mother, who claimed to have some sort of sixth sense or whatever, had put the fear of ghosts in his heart from a very early age. He was a very superstitious man. A scary flick was enough to make him jumpy for a couple of days. In fact, the closest I had ever come to pulling a prank on him was when I tried to wake him up one morning by tugging at his ankle. "Babe, you're gonna be late." He screamed and recoiled, suddenly alert, his eyes wide in terror. After he'd taken a moment to calm down, he started laughing. He said he thought I were the demon from the movie we'd watched the night before. "Maybe I am," I said in a spooky voice. "Maybe I'm here to drag you to hell." "Sure you are, gorgeous." A single glance at this poster had sent a chill down my spine. It was bound to get under Tarek's skin if he were to, say, wake up one morning with this thing standing at the foot of our bed, that woman smiling down at him. It would definitely get a reaction out of him. If I pulled this off, he would never look at me the same way again. He would see me as a match. That is, until the next time he played a joke on me, which was bound to happen. Still, that was the only idea I had had that I really liked. So I rolled up the poster and took it home with me. I had one shot at this, so I planned it very carefully over the next 5 days. Tarek worked as a nurse at the Toronto Western Hospital, and the following week he would be on the early morning shift, which meant he'd be up before the sunrise. All I had to do was be up before him, tape the poster to the wall on his side of the bed, and then leave the room, waiting for the moment he woke up, sees the woman, and starts screaming. I know, not exactly a criminal mastermind, but I work with what I got. I ran the plan through Carolina. She told me I had the sense of humor of a 12-year-old, but suggested we watched a horror movie before going to bed to put him in the right state of mind. That Sunday night, I convinced him to watch Ju-on, which is one of my favorites. Since the movie is in Japanese, a language neither of us speak, the subtitles meant he couldn't look away. If that creepy ghost woman comes for me, I'm offering you to her and saving myself, he told me, cuddling up next to me on the blankets. I smiled, delighted at the opportunity that had presented itself to me. I've already talked to her, babe. She's coming for your soul in the morning. He shuddered. Very funny, gorgeous. Couldn't wait. I kept waiting up every other hour, just waiting for my alarm clock. When time finally came, I slipped out of bed, making sure Tarek was still asleep. He was, being as quiet as I could. I took the poster off the drawer and taped it to the wall on his side of the bed. The woman was so white that I could see her clearly in the dark. Her teeth seemed to sparkle in a menacing way, and maybe that was all in my head, but she looked gleeful, as if she knew what we were about to do, and she approved of it. I left my bedside lamp on, just in case. The last thing I needed was to ruin my prank with poor lighting. I left the room giggling to myself and went to wait for Tarek in the kitchen. Yes, my plan was stupid and juvenile, but I couldn't wait to see his face. He might even be a little mad at me, but it would be worth it. Mr. Tarek thought I was a sweet young lady who never dared to get back at him. Well, he was in for a surprise. 10 minutes later, as I sipped my coffee, grinning to myself, I heard his alarm go off. This is it. A moment passed, then another. Tarek came into the kitchen after 2 minutes, rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. He saw me and said, "Up already, gorgeous?" "No, come on," I whined, putting down my cup of coffee. "What? I thought you were going to scream." "Okay." "Were you even scared?" "Of what?" My jaw dropped. "You didn't even see it. Come on, I left the light on and everything." "See what?" "The creepy woman." He stared at me. "Are you high on something, gorgeous?" I was disappointed. I'd thought it was going to be a funny prank, but it turned out he hadn't even spotted her. He'd probably gotten out of the bedroom without opening his eyes. I should have stayed behind and made sure he looked at the wall. "I left a poster for you. Here, I'll show you." "Gorgeous, I have to get going." I yanked his hand and practically dragged him back to the bedroom. I was a little mad, I guess. All of that planning and the outcome had been the worst possible. Back in the room, I pointed at the poster. "There, see, I got this." I stopped. The woman was nowhere to be seen. "What?" said Tarek, right behind me. He looked at the poster, which now only depicted a gray, empty forest, covered in mist. "That's pretty creepy, but a little too creepy for the bedroom, isn't it?" I tore the thing from the wall and turned it around in my hand. I had to have taped the wrong side to the wall. I hadn't. This was the right side, the one with the trees and the woman. Yet the woman had vanished. I turned it around several times, as if I could find her if only I looked hard enough. Now Tarek was looking at me, watching as I grew paler and paler. "You okay there, Alicia? This is you, right?" "What did I do?" You found out about my prank and decided to get a jump on me. You were going to prank me? Tarek, come on, just admit it. Alicia, I have no idea what you're talking about. He looked at the bedside clock. I have to get breakfast now. Can we continue this in the kitchen? I was sure that Tarek was messing with me. That was very on brand for him. Still, I played along while he cooked and ate, and as I explained my plan to him, how I'd stumbled upon the creepy poster at work and decided to use it to give him a scare. And then I got to the part where the woman was nowhere to be found and watched his face for anything that might betray him. Tarek is a good liar, but when the joke is really good, he can't help but smirk just a little and give himself away. His face was dead serious as he chewed, and then he swallowed and gave me a smile. Nice try, gorgeous. I stared at him. Really, I would have freaked out if I'd found that thing on the wall looking down on me. You should have gone with that plan. Now you're just overselling the whole thing. Tarek, I'm not joking. Of course you're not, he said. I'm sure the creepy little girl just walked out of the poster before I woke up. It wasn't a little girl. That would have been such a good prank too, Alicia, he continued. A pity you went with the "our house is now haunted by the ghost of poster lady" routine. Again, I couldn't do anything but stare. Okay, Tarek, seriously, quit it, I finally said, now getting annoyed. I get it. You're the better prankster. Now go get the poster so we can laugh at how clever you are. Tarek shrugged. Not going to admit it? Fine. I'll wait for her to come and claim my soul then. That was when it occurred to me. He might not be lying. He wouldn't have resisted the chance to brag otherwise. That made no sense, though. Tarek had to be responsible. He just had to. I couldn't find an explanation otherwise. I tried to insist that I wasn't joking, but he didn't believe me. Right before he left for work, after I'd told him over and over again that I was dead serious, he commended me on my acting skills and commitment to the prank. Then he kissed me and left for work. I went upstairs immediately and checked the poster again, half expecting the woman to be back, laughing at me with her joyless smile. But she wasn't there. My mind raced in circles, trying to find an explanation for what had happened. Maybe Tarek was really messing with me, but if that were so, then my poster should have been hidden somewhere in the bedroom. I searched every nook and cranny that morning. I tore my bedroom down. I even checked the mattress and the vent. I found nothing. He had to be behind it, I thought. He simply had to. I kept looking for explanations. Maybe he'd taken the poster with him. No, I'd watched as he'd gotten dressed. He must have hidden it in the washroom. He had to. But he hadn't gone into the washroom after leaving the bedroom. I'd seen him. Still, I couldn't find a way to explain it. I did the next best thing. I tore that thing to pieces, threw it in the trash, and told myself not to think about it. It had probably been a trick of the light, or maybe the poster had been an item from a joke shop. Everything had a rational explanation, even if I couldn't find one. That was 6 months ago. Every morning since then, I've woken up to find that thing beside my bed, grinning down at me. At first, I thought I was having a nightmare, and I would fumble for my cell phone or the bedside lamp to banish her from my mind. That used to work, but not anymore. Even when I close my eyes and cower under my blankets, I can still feel her feral grin on me, her cold eyes on my terrified face, delighted by my panic. Tarek never saw her. She always disappeared when he opened his eyes. He thought it was all part of the joke. Then he thought I was going insane. I cried on his shoulder over and over again, begging him to believe me. I screamed at him when he suggested I talk to a doctor, said it was all his fault. I'm honestly surprised it took him 4 months of this madness and one unsuccessful move for him to finally give up and leave me. He thinks that I need help. Ever since he left, the woman has become bolder. She kneels beside me, coming inches from my face. She pulls my sheets down so that I have nowhere to hide. She chuckles in the dark, and that sound, low and menacing, echoes in the room long after she's gone. The thing is, she never does anything but stare down on me with her dead eyes and toothy grin until I scream or cry. Sometimes she lingers beside me for hours. Other days she blinks into existence for only a second, just as I start to hope that maybe this morning she won't come. She always does, though, no matter where I am. I haven't been able to figure out what that thing is, but I don't think it wants to hurt me. I kind of wish it were. Instead, she simply smiles at me, as if she knows how scared something that simple makes me. As if she knows the joke is, as always, on me. So quoth this raven. This was a fun one, my darlings, and I'm very much like the protagonist, so maybe that's why I was drawn to it, but a very interesting, wonderful read. Many thanks to Writing Ambition for letting me read this, and thank you for coming, my darlings. I do so enjoy your visits, and a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, Ermin Case, Darren and Jennifer, and Laura. If you like this, please hit the little button to let me know. If you didn't, hit the little button to let me know. Leave a comment. I'm always glad to talk with you, my darlings. I'm open to suggestions and criticisms, critiques. If you have not subscribed, please do so and ring the little bell so you know when to come up and see me. And I will talk to you next time, my darlings. Farewell.
Welcome to Madame Raven's. This way to the library. She's been expecting you.
No wolves in the Stillwod. A classic creepypasta. The gray wolves of Virginia were made extinct over 100 years ago, according to the regular surveys by the National Forest Service. No sign of such animals have been found since 1900. The occasional reports of large predators just after dusk or late at night, usually by the occasional hiker or party of campers in the Stillwod, residents of Lower Alethea, nearest the woods like myself, no better than to try, received the same tired reply from animal control. There are no wolves in the Stillwod. When a pet gets lost in the dark of the Stillwod and never returns, or worse, is found mauled, the blame falls on the usual suspects: foxes, wild dogs, or teenagers with too much time and too little compassion. A few years back, when the Bradys, a little family brand new to the Falls, had their boy David go missing from their own backyard, never finding more than scraps of his jacket and a little blood at the edge of the forest, the official response was adamant. This was a kidnapping, not an animal attack. Old-timers like me just shook our heads and muttered to ourselves, "There are no wolves in the Stillwod." So, if you want to sleep at night this close to the forest, keep your doors locked tight and your shutters closed fast. If just to buy some peace of mind, to stop you from catching a glimpse of Silverwood late at night. And should you somehow find yourself walking near, or God forbid through, the woods some evening, head home as quick as you can. Try to ignore the sounds of the night wind, howling as it does. It will only make your imagination run wild after all. And should you see what cannot be polychrome eyes shining through the mists from the underbush or somehow in the branches above, should you be blessed enough to make it safely home, take what comfort you can in this thought. There are no wolves in the Stillwod. So quoth this raven. My darlings, this was a request from Twitter from Alec Hackman. So, you get a little extra because it's just a few minutes long. Enjoy your Wednesdays, my darlings, and thank you all for coming. And special thanks to my Patreon supporters. I do appreciate them all. You guys just rock.